Welcome to the fourth and final edition of the Women in Leadership Series for 2024. My name is Chiyoko Kakino. I am the Executive Vice President of Real Property Management here in Canada. And I will be hosting this discussion to talk about what leadership looks like today and what it's going to look like in the future. So thank you, Romania and Sarah, for being part of this panel of smart, successful, determined, passionate, wonderful group of real property management ladies. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it. I'm going to also be joining in this discussion today, so I'm super excited to get started. So why don't we start by you giving me a little bit of background on yourself. So introduce yourself, what office you're from. Of course, Sarah, you're from home office. So, and then also just a little bit about a summary of your career, when you got into property management would be great. And also if there is a particular time in your career that you really made that switch into more of a leadership position. So Romania, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So, my name is Romania Leo, and I am the owner of RPM Ace here in Calgary, Alberta. And this is our coming on 6th year now since we've launched in Calgary. And my background is actually selling real estate. And I started in my 20s and now into my 40s. So it has been 20 years of just working with buyers, sellers. But what really got me into the industry is we decided as a family to just start investing in one investment property a year. So over time we've built quite a big portfolio. And then we just kept hearing the challenges from tenants and other friends or clients that were just complaining about all the issues that they have. And then I'm thinking, I actually don't have any of these issues. And it just made me realize that, it's how we treat people, starting from our tenants, because real estate is a full circle of real estate where the tenants that we had now are now our clients who have moved from the stage of from tenancy to first stage of ownership to growing their family to now their career is set. Let's consider an investment property. Now they're at a later stage in life. Now they're empty nesters. So we decided that if we start from the beginning, the whole circle of real estate it just circles itself. And that's how we started RPM Ace, and our mission was to, as Ace goes, above client expectations.
Well, Romina, you're so correct. It is that circle, right? And so it's so great that you're able to provide, that experience to your clients and also your tenants and everyone that you work with on a real estate standpoint. Sarah, what about you? I know you have a unique career path. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So I am Sarah Hussein. I am the coordinator of Remote Support Office. And my career path is unique in the way that I did engineering and then I started to transition towards a career that I was more passionate about. So RPM came into my life in a very pivotal time, and there is a lot of learning that I'm doing as I'm here. I do have a background in accounting too. So for the past 2 years, I had been working in the accounting sphere, and it's quite interesting, and it's a different area of work. However, as engineers, I've always dealt with numbers, and I'm very familiar with softwares and the things that are transferable into accounting. So that is what my background has been like. My role in RPM has allowed me to have a leadership position in my department, and as well as apply those skills. I think it's very interesting what Romania said about the challenges that homeowners and property managers can have just dealing with properties. That is something I'm learning on a day-to-day basis, and what I'm realizing is communication is key in the leadership position or even below, like in the hierarchy. Communication is key, and that is something that I'm trying to take away with me every single day and work on every single day.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for sharing. Like Sarah, I have been with Real Property Management for only about 4 months, maybe coming on 5 months. Prior to that, I've spent, over, I'm going to say 9 years coming up in April with the Charlwood Pacific Group, which is the parent company of Real Property Management Canada. During my 8.5 years prior to joining RPM, I really focused on the Century 21 brand and helping it grow across the country, helping to rebrand it and make it look fresh and modern and contemporary. Also worked on the Uniglow brand, which is another sister company to Real Property Management, helping redesign its brand identity and complete new design package to help that company move forward too. So I've just really had the honor of working for a number of brands with underneath the Charlwood Pacific Group umbrella. And then prior to that, I have over 20 years experience helping entrepreneurs grow their business. So I'm super excited to be here and to have this discussion about leadership. I think that I took a leadership role quite young in my career. So it's probably been over 20 years that I've been a leader of it in some capacity. And I've really enjoyed that. So let's talk now about what skills an effective leader needs these days. Sarah, why don't we start with you?
Sure. I think an effective leader, it's first of all very important to be a good listener, to just understand the problem or anything that's coming to you. So listening skills, just actively listening is, I think, number one. And the second would be having a bird eye view. So at times we get too invested in a scenario and it's difficult to really see it for what it is. And in order to offer great solutions, we need to have a bird eye view so that we can see all the moving components of any situation and then take the best action. So I think those are my two main. I had already mentioned communication. So you obviously have to be great at communication and great at, conveying your message coherently, clearly to people. So that is there too. But yeah, that makes active listening, bird eye view, and communication.
Great, thanks, Sarah. What about you, Romania? What skills do you think an effective leader needs these days?
Well, every day as leaders, we're learning. So what's most important is to share the learning with our team, which really aligns with what Sarah's saying is the communications. So, but one of the biggest things I've learned this year for effective leadership is problem solving and being able to think outside the box. And as Sarah mentions, when you diagnose a problem, understand the problem in order to solve the problem.
Great. Well, I think you guys have a great, descriptives for an effective leader. If I can just add to that, I think, an effective leader needs to be a visionary. So they definitely need to be forward thinking. They need to, have an understanding of a strategic plan in place. And I do feel that if a leader and a team have a strategic plan that they're following, that's really easy to make decisions to identify what's really going to impact the business and what's not going to impact the business. I find that it's very easy if something comes across your plate to decide if it's something that aligns with your strategy or doesn't. I think an effective leader needs to be adaptable. There's things are changing so quickly. Take AI, for example. So you have to be really willing to learn new technology and be adaptable and change with as the market changes, or if there's new technology introduced or social media changes or people's behavior changes. I think you need to be adaptable. I definitely think you need to be compassionate, right? And have that empathy and care for people. I think that's really critical in today's world. So, Romania, you have been in a leadership role for a number of years. How is leadership different today than it has been in the past?
So, leadership, when I first started, I actually didn't realize that, being an actual leader, takes a lot of, self discipline, self learning, improving yourself every day because you are now in charge of a team and the team looks at you for direction. So, in order for you to have a great team and traction, there has to be, that trust where the team knows that you're watching their back. So from the time where I've started to where I evolve now, it really boils down to just, learning how to be a leader to listen. And most importantly, when there is a problem, it's not pointing who did what, right? It's what did we all not do and what do we do next to solve the problem? And then you go back as a we to diagnose the problem.
Great, thank you. Sarah, what about you? How do you think leadership has evolved throughout the years, and how is it different now than it has been in the past?
Yeah. So I haven't had too many years of experience as yet. But I've heard a lot of authors and read a lot of books. And what I've understood is that first, leadership used to be a person who knows what the next steps are and the team follows. And what I'm understanding in today's work culture, leadership is a collaboration. And there's really no other way. And it is very important to work with the strengths of the people in the team and to understand it as a collaborative effort and to have trust, as Romania said, because that is what keeps the ball moving, but with a lot of momentum. And I think what I used to notice before in leadership, where there was a culture of people following a leader, there was a disconnect between what the population is generally feeling, or that group of people are generally feeling, and what their subjective opinions are and what they're doing. And that also would reduce the drive they had to take action towards the prosperity of the team. Versus in a collaborative environment, everybody's opinions are taken into consideration. So the investment is higher, the momentum is higher, and people are genuinely interested in taking steps ahead together. So I think that's become the new culture, and I love it. I think it's intelligent, it's emotionally educated, and I think we're going in the right way.
I completely agree with you, Sarah, 100%. And I know that in my experience, what leadership looked like 20 years ago is so different from what it looks like today. I know, as I mentioned, I was in a leadership role quite young. And, I think that at that time I felt I had to make all the decisions. I had to be, then I would just push the decisions down to the team to execute. And now as a leader, as a much more experienced and mature leader, now I know that actually it's more important to get the feedback, the advice, the input from the team before making that decisions, because as you said, that's where you get the buy-in. That's where you get the team being excited about the direction and the decision that you make. And so I completely agree with you, and that is my answer too. So staying with you, Sarah, I just wanted to know, what has been one of the biggest challenges that you've had as a leader, and how have you overcome it?
My biggest challenge, I think, is something that I'm working with right at the moment. It's patience. At times it is a necessity to have great amount of patience. Sometimes you're able to diagnose a problem a lot quicker than another teammate and are able to act on it and take the right actions a lot quicker than another teammate. But if I disintegrate myself from the team and think, okay, I got it, and now I have to, like, others must catch up, that is where I am creating a disconnect between myself and the other team members. So I've learned to be very patient with the learning of other people too. So understanding that it may take them more time. They may actually understand some things a lot faster than I did. So it may take me more time in other scenarios to understand that we're even balls in the same group, and to be patient with their progress, and to understand that patience is, it is grace that you give to your team members. And that way you are really solidifying the relationships within the team and solidifying the education within the team as well.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. Romania, what about you? What has been one of your biggest challenges as a leader, and how have you overcome it?
Well, leadership itself is a challenge, first of all.
Yes.
But, further to kind of what Sarah was saying, 100% is, for me, we are in a people business. So, and we can't assume that everybody, or especially your team, that common sense is not common. Right. So that requires the patience to understand that, if they really didn't get it, what was common sense to me is not common sense to them. Right. Which boils again back to the communication. And that, most importantly, personality types and strengths are all different. Right. How their styles of work style, some like to be micromanaged. Right. where they feel lost if they're not micromanaged and they don't feel like they have the autonomy or authority to make the decisions. And my style is more, I don't like micromanaging, is if I've empowered you to take on a task, I will back you up. So again, it's working with the different types of people, and the leadership style just has to adapt to that type.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. I think that one of the, as you said, Romania, leadership, being a leader is challenging in itself. One of the biggest challenges that I've had as a leader has been really to customize my leadership style based on the person that I'm leading. And so, or that I'm communicating with on a daily basis, because, some people, are very action oriented. They don't need any fluff around, any of the communication. So they just want, just this communication. They're just like straight shooters. Other people are much more sensitive. And so it's just kind of slowing down, because I'm very action oriented. So I just want to get like a ton of things done quickly. And I always have to kind of slow myself down to take the time to really communicate the way that it's relevant to the person, right? And so that's kind of been, and I continue to challenge with that, because I go so fast that I always have to like take time to make sure that, I'm empathetic, I'm compassionate, I'm understanding, what's going on in that person's day, and and just being there for them. So I think that's been one of my challenges. Romania, just staying with you, how would you describe your leadership style?
I have I don't know if it's the typical leadership style, but I believe in autonomy, you know, and owning up as a leader, that if my team, for whatever reason, I will back them up no matter what. I'm definitely not a micromanagement leader. I don't care or want details. And I think it's the whole learning how to be a leader, this past few years is where failure is the only way that leads to success. So it's failing as a leader that's, helping me learn my own leadership styles and how to adapt my personality with other personalities in order to be a good leader.
Sarah, what about you? How would you describe your leadership style?
I think my leadership style is collaborative, and also I like to work with people's strengths, something that I know they will do well in. And that comes with observing them. So when I observe people and I understand that their strengths lie in a certain area, then giving them tasks and responsibilities in that area, and the areas that need growth, coaching them on that. So it is a collaborative, effort from me and the teammates both. And yeah, a lot of observing and working with the strengths, I think works out.
And Sarah, because you and I, of course, work on the home office team, I would say that you're a collaborative leader for sure. I knew what your answer was going to be. Um, so I'd like to think of myself as a transformational leader, one that really is passionate about transforming a business, helping a business grow. Again, that's what gets me excited when I wake up in the morning, is really helping to, propel a business to its next level and helping it grow, helping the franchisees grow their business. That has been my whole career. And that still gets me excited every single day. I think that I love to inspire people, whether it's my team members at home office, whether it's franchisees, whether it's anyone in the network. I love, inspiring people, getting people excited, about the future, and also helping to kind of raise the bars. I have very high expectations. And so I do continue to raise the bar, helping, team members really, achieving results that they might not even have thought of was possible. So that's what I would say about myself. I don't know what the team would say, but that's what I would say about myself.
Well, I can add a few words because I observe you every day. I think you're absolutely right. Transformational. And the visionary aspect of you is also quite prominent because you share the vision. So everybody's able to then get on board. So, yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're a very motivational leader.
Oh, thanks, Romania. I'm glad that my passion and what I hope to achieve is coming through in some ways. I really appreciate both of your support. You both are wonderful. So, Sarah, how has your leadership style evolved over time, do you think?
I think I slowed down. So what, as what you had mentioned, because first it was go, 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 but then when I realized that now I'm leading a team, I have to then work with the speed and also with with the understanding of other people. So it's about slowing down, and we don't necessarily have to slow down tasks. That's not what I mean. But what I essentially mean is to give attention and to give fair, amount of time and patience to other people for them to learn and for them to be on board and for them to be on the same page as I am. So just being more attentive and slowing down and allowing that to happen is what has been added in my leadership style.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Romania, how about you? How has your leadership style evolved over time?
So my leadership style over time has, become like adaptability is the biggest thing because, having to solve problems at any time, you just don't know what to expect really, really pushes you out of your comfort zone and just, you know, it almost trains a skill that you didn't know you had. And, when you know that your whole team is relying on you to fix something, it's like you almost need to have all the answers all the time, but yet we don't. So it's the more you learn, I've learned, is the more we earn, not just in terms of, monetary or financially, but it's really that confidence and that wealth of knowledge that you need as a leader in order to solve problems that just come and hit you whenever and however.
Great. Well, that's some great insight. I think that my leadership style has evolved over time. I think I've become much more confident. I'm much more confident in following my gut instinct for sure. I think when I was a young leader, I would be so influenced in what other people thought, and I would go down a direction that I knew wasn't right in my gut, but because I was so influenced by others, I would go in that direction. And I kind of learned over time is that you really have to just follow your gut. And so I think that I have more confidence to the point that, I'm much more able to, like, not all ideas have to come from me. Not all the right answers need to come from me. Those answers, and the ideas can come from anybody. And I think when you're young in a leadership position, I think that you have to feel that you have to make a mark. And then as you get older, you realize, no, actually, to help mentor, to help encourage, to help put your team up on a pedestal, is that's really where your success is, right? Getting them to the next level in their career. So, Romania, I know you just mentioned it, about the comfort zone, being adaptable. What really pushes you outside your comfort zone?
It's panic and stress, of course, but it's fine that, when you're pushed outside your comfort zone is it's like a flight or fight response that you, like you said, it's the gut and you just do it. And, that's how effective leaders are, is your gut is right. And you know what? That's why we are the leaders, because it's our experience from learning from the mistakes that we've made, right? Or other people's mistakes, in order to create a team where you can all learn more and earn more.
Great. Sarah, what about you? What pushes you outside your comfort zone?
I think sometimes understanding another teammate's opinion and realizing that it may be a better choice of action, for instance, is something that is outside of one's comfort because this is not what their opinion was. But I've seen a great deal of success in doing that because at times my input may be very subjective and it may have certain aspects missing, but it's all about the collaborative environment where everybody's given an opportunity to speak. And once that starts to happen, you start to notice, oh, this is what I was missing, and this is great information. So this kind of gets you out of your comfort zone and from your own mental thought process. And you're like, oh, there's so many ways to look at the same picture. There's so many interpretation of the same art, that kind of scenario. So yeah, I think it is fun, and it pushes me out of my comfort because sometimes I realize that I had been missing out on something so simple, and it's great that I had this conversation because now I see it, and now we can learn and grow together. So yeah.
Thanks, Sarah. It's interesting because I'm thinking, what pushes me out of my comfort zone? And other than personal things like I'm not going to jump out of a plane, I'm not going to do bungee jumping. That's just totally out of my comfort zone. from a business standpoint is I think what pushes me outside my comfort zone is just things not going as planned because I'm a very much a planned person. My background is marketing. So marketing always looks out, a year ahead. We've got plans in place. We always have to be ahead of the curve. So my whole career has been dedicated to being planned. I plan in my personal life, I plan in business. And I think that if something goes off plan, that pushes me outside my comfort zone because it gives me anxiety, because it's just not going exactly the way that I planned it. Now, I've learned, of course, being experienced, being adaptable and doing that, but it still kind of pushes me outside my comfort zone. So, Sarah, if you were to rewind the clock, I'm going to say 5 to 10 years, and you're writing a letter to your younger self, what advice would you love to be given at that time?
I was graduating university as an engineer.
That's good. Well, what
In
advice would you
Turkey.
give? What
So
advice would you give yourself?
start listening to books, just as many as you can. It is such a powerful tool and it is a privilege because I started listening to books about 4 years ago, and now my frequency is about 10 books a month at times because there are only like 3 or 4 hours, and I use them during mundane tasks at home. But had I started it 10 years ago, I think I would be in a different place because it really does impact your trajectory. So when I started listening to books, for instance, I got introduced to entrepreneurship and creativity, things that I hadn't really thought about in engineering school because it was kind of creativity is not, something that we are taught as such or even encouraged to do. So yeah, I think I would tell myself to start listening to books and understanding that my mindset really impacts the trajectory of my life.
Great. Well, thanks, Sarah. Romania, what about you? If you were to rewind the clock 10 years ago and you were writing a letter to your younger self, what advice would you have loved to be given at that time?
Confidence. When you display and convey confidence, people feel that. And in order to not even just, in the sales of real estate, but it just people respond and almost, if you're confident, they will respect you. And the only way you're going to be confident is to learn more, right? So the most important is you have to learn every day. And when you learn every day, you don't talk about the problem, you learn to fix the problem. So those are things that, I had written to myself, 20 years ago. It would have probably given me a head start, but it's the first 10 years of starting at the bottom in order to get to the top. And in order to fail or succeed, you have to fail first.
Well, that's a good point. I think that, again, having over 20 years experience in a leadership role, I think if I was to write a letter to my younger self, it would be 2 words. It would say, be yourself. And,
Love
I
that.
think, end of story. And I think, being a young leader, I was at the boardroom table well before I turned, 30. So it was kind of like my mid 20s. I was already at the boardroom table. I was the youngest at the boardroom table. And I think that my level of confidence, I just felt that I had to be a certain way, right? I had to be older than I was. I had to act a certain way. And what I realized is, and I say this all the time, is the magic happens when you're just yourself, right? And that's when, you are just the person you are, you're authentic. I lead with my heart, I talk with passion. Everything that I say, I believe in. And I think that's when the magic really happens. And so if I was to give myself some advice, it'd be yourself and be fine with that and enjoy that and embrace that.
I think I'm taking takeaways from both of you. It's like be yourself. And once you start doing that, you're confident because confidence resonates with me very deeply because that is something, internally I struggle with too, especially in my early 20s and in my mid 20s. And so I understand why it is very important to be confident because once you don't believe in yourself, nobody else can. So in order for other people to believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. So be confident in pursuing that faith. So yeah, those were really nicely said. So I'm making notes too.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I find when you're confident, that's when you can be yourself because you have to love
Exactly.
Yeah,
yourself first, right? So those are the two
100%.
underlying, especially as women in a man's world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And speaking of a woman in the man's world there, Romania, and so what qualities do you think women bring to leadership roles in the property management industry?
I think, women, the way our mindset and thought is very, very different from men, right? And whereas we are more thoughtful and we have, it's not that men don't have compassion, but, I think as women in real estate is we can relate to, men and women. So that's really important in terms of, understanding where your owners and tenants are because again, you're working with people and we're in a people business.
Absolutely. Sarah, what about you? What do you think, what qualities do you think women bring to leadership roles in the property management industry?
Um, I think women bring, they're eloquent. So I love listening to women who are leaders. And I also think they bring intuition because that is not something I would notice in men. And intuition is very powerful and it's extremely strategic when you start using it for the gains of the company. So yeah, I think those are the two traits that I notice.
Well, I love that about intuition because this is the fourth episode of a series, and no one's even said that. And I think you're correct. I think they just bring a different level of intuition to the table. If I can add to both of you, I think that women have the ability to multitask. We know in the property management business that they're in Romania. I don't even do it, but Romania knows that there's so many things that you have to get done in a day and in a week and in a specific month. And just women have, because based on, they're managing their families, they've got businesses, they're entrepreneurs, they just are used to multitasking. And I think that, they bring that strength to the table. I also think they have the ability to be more nurturing, or I'm going to say more comfortable with showing that they're caring and nurturing, because I know a lot of men that are super, super nurturing, but I just think that women overall are more, that's just innate in them to be much more nurturing and caring. And so how they handle, the communication or situations with tenants or clients, it just might come across as a little bit more caring and nurturing. And then I think the ability to deal with a lot of stress. Romania, I know you're a mother, and you're handling your kids, you're the chauffeur, you're the chef, you're trying to support your team, you're an entrepreneur, you're growing your business, you're doing all these things. And I just think women can handle a significant amount of stress without showing it as much. So those are my additions, or why women bring what women bring to leadership roles in this industry.
That's right. Girl power.
Girl power, absolutely. So Sarah, what skills or qualities do you think a leader needs to be successful in the future? As we look forward, what are some of those qualities that someone needs to be successful in the future?
I think adaptability, because things are changing in a very fast pace. New things are being introduced, older things are being retired. So it's about being adaptable to the new changes and so staying up to beat with the current norms in our society. I think that's very important in all ways, within the team, outside the team, in knowledge, in tech, in all areas.
I agree. And Romania, what about you? What skills or qualities do you think a leader needs to be successful in the future?
It's the ability to work with your team to take credit and responsibility because there's going to be good and bad times, right? So if your team does well and you take the credit, but when there's issues, we as leaders we have to own up to it, and that's probably what I would say for the future.
Well, and I agree with you both. I think adaptability is super important for leaders in the future. I think that, again, with AI, just taking AI for an example, so, like how do you adapt the things that you do every day? How do you adapt your business to leverage and take advantage of, new technology that comes out? So not only adapting to kind of what's happening in the environment, but also adapting to your team, and being relevant to a whole bunch of demographic groups, right? Whether it's young people on your team or older people on your team. So just I think adaptability would be kind of a big quality that I think a leader would need to be successful in the future. So Romania, what is a leader that you admire, and why do you admire them?
I would say Tim Cook with Apple,
Okay.
because he had to take over with very big shoes to fill, obviously. And, the reason for Apple's success is that he believes in the people and you got to find the right people. And as leaders, we have to, it's sometimes when you hire people, especially the new ones, you don't know, until whether, they're either, so you have to weed out the bad apples, right? Because you're going to have toxic people in your team, and that's where turnover and managing that is, really big operations struggle. So the whole, idea with Tim Cook is find and hire the right people, build and grow the right people, and when you work with the people to own and grow, you know, in terms of success or failure, in terms of taking responsibility and credit, that's, where your key to success is in any industry.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to read up too. It's that's some great advice. Sarah, what about you? Who's a leader that you admire, and why do you admire them?
I admire Sarah Blakely, who's the CEO of Spanx. She was the first billionaire woman in the world. And I admire her because, first of all, she has a lot of fun in her entire entrepreneurship journey. So she started in her apartment and she created these, the first product of Spanx. And it started in her apartment. But whenever see her during an interview, she's so happy and is having so much fun that it's contagious. And she's also really big on intuition. And she talks about how sometimes intuition is not easily reasoned with because you feel like you're supposed to do something and you feel intuitively that something is right for you, but you may not have all the building blocks to explain it. But if you follow your gut, because that is where Spanx came from, she followed her gut,
I love it.
great things happen.
Yeah,
Literally,
followed her gut.
yeah. And honestly, what women doing, especially, us after children, is who doesn't have a Spanx? It's a need. She fixed a problem.
Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of Spanx is kind of like a household name, right? If you're a woman, you know who Spanx is. It's kind of like
Exactly.
Kleenex. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
whether you have them or not, depending on where you are in your life, it's like you're just familiar with the brand, right? It has huge brand awareness.
Yeah.
So my answer to this question is a little bit different. One of the leaders that I admire and is my mother. She never even graduated from high school, but she definitely was the leader of the family. And I admire her because she was strong, she was independent, she was courageous, but she had such a big heart. So she absolutely loved everybody she met. She was bubbly and she was happy, and she was super friendly, and she really treated everyone equally and didn't have any judgment at all. Like she would treat, she would walk down the street and talk to strangers and respect them and be interested in who they are as much as if she met a CEO. Like it was just like everybody was born equal, and she was always open to anything. It'd be like I'd ask her a question, I'd go, what about this one of mine, whatever you want to be. It was very, so it's just like she's just someone that I respect, and I hope to follow in her footsteps and have the same traits as her. So she is a leader I'd admire. So just kind of finishing up here, Sarah, what advice would you give a young person if they were sitting across from you at a table and they said, you know what, Sarah, one day I want to be a leader? What advice would you give me?
Take the time to learn about yourself. What is your style of learning? What is your style of communicating? And who are your people? Because sometimes, you can be lost in a crowd. But once you start to identify traits that this resonates with me and I'm able to have a great conversation to then work on that and create a network for yourself, I think that's a very important trait to have. Because when I was young, I didn't really start learning myself. I didn't know what my style is. I didn't know what my tribe is. I was like, oh, talking to her is great. I like hanging out with this person. I think that person is fun. But that's not the point. The point is to learn how can we create something credible, something that's going to last, and something that, here I'm talking about professional life. So how can we work together in an collaborative environment and work towards something? And that requires having a lot of self-awareness and being aware of other people and their emotions and their traits. So yeah, I would tell to learn yourself.
That's great advice. Romania, what about you? What advice would you give a young person if they said they want to be a leader one day? What advice would you give them?
I would say passion and people. You have to find your passion first, become very, very good at it. And when you're an expert, right, you obviously it would offer those technical skills as a leader, but most importantly is you need to be a people person. So adapt and understand, different types of people, how to work with people, and how people create problems, but people solve problems.
Right. You know what? And I love the word passion. So I would be the same as you, Romania. I'd be like, figure out what your passion is. Ask yourself, what gets me excited when I wake up in the morning? Don't let anyone take you in a different direction, because the worst thing is, of course, to be in something that you're just not passionate about, you're not excited about. So really follow your heart, figure out what that flag on the hill looks like in the future, and really kind of just go for it, right? Don't let anything stand in your way. Just go for it. Make sure you stay confident within yourself. And I actually think, anybody can do anything they put their mind to. So be yourself, of course, and just go for it. Anyways, thank you so much, ladies, Romania and Sarah, for being part of this discussion. I really enjoyed this time with you and just kind of better understanding your experience and your insights and all the advice that you have with regards to kind of leadership and what that looks like today and in the future. So I really appreciate the time. I appreciate your commitment to the Real Property Management brand, all your hard work that you do each and every day for your clients. And it's been really nice spending some time with you. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Awesome, thank you. We appreciate a great leader.
Thank you.
This was wonderful. I was going to say, I had a great time.
Me
Thank
too.
you,
I learned so
Chioko.
much from both of you, and yeah, thanks to the opportunity. It's great.
Great. Thank you so much. Awesome, guys.
Oh wow, that was actually quite fun. I actually meant to. I just realized I had this in my. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not bossy. I just have better.
I was like,
I love that. That's hilarious. That's so cute.
so yeah, so is this for the RPM Canada? Sorry, we need a picture, lady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where is this? Do we find are we putting this interview?
Podcast up.
Oh, it's a podcast. So we won't.
No,
be on camera.
take a picture first and then we'll talk.
Okay. I'm trying to. I'm not very good at this because it's. Wait, there. Sorry. Okay, we'll make it work. Thank you. I'll
I'm
send
like,
it
I
out.
can't talk and pose. I cannot talk and pose at the same time. So we're putting this out on video. So we are going to edit and push it out on video through our social media channels. We put it on our YouTube page. I'm not quite sure what Sandy's plan is, whether we're going to take some quotes and stuff throughout the year, like some of the quotes that come up through this recording, or do little sound bites and stuff like that. But it's definitely going to be published. So we've every episode releases on a Friday. So we just had the second episode that is released today, and then the third episode will be released next Friday, and then this episode will be released the last Friday of March. And so yes, so we just hopefully we will.
There's a YouTube channel, so I got to find out the link for that for RPM.
Yeah. Oh well, I'll send you the link once everything
okay.
gets edited. I'll send you the link so you can push it out too.
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
sharing it with our teams would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Internally.
So once the links come out, I will send it to you, and you can send it out, and I'll just write there when we're going live with it, and then you can share it out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, ladies. Happy Friday.
Well, thank you so much, Romania. Nice to see you on video.
You bet. So we are good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
It was
Have
lovely
fun.
chatting with you, Romania. I got some insight into your mind. So it was lovely chatting with you.
Oh, likewise. Exactly. It's so hard when it's always email and just talking about counting. But you're right. And I love your story, and that's why face to face, even this is best we get, we just learn so much, especially, with Chioko and your leadership and experience. Yeah, it's very inspiring, both of you. And Sarah,
Awesome.
you have
You
the
inspire
youth,
us.
so you go, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got actually really great ladies in this network. I tell you,
I
it's very, very
Well, that's why
exciting.
it's that whole circle of influence where we're all like-minded and sharing the same values, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I'm going to coordinate a ladies get together on Zoom, because the other thing that someone was bringing up too, that there's a lot of husband and wife teams, And it's so different to work with your husband and your spouse, right? Romy, I'm sure you could give some advice. But
This is off record advice is do it yourself.
do it yourself. That's what my sister would say, actually, in her family. If you want something done, do it yourself. You know,
Exactly.
they used to say in the restaurant business, 'cause I spent 20 years in the restaurant business, if you'll get better service going into a restaurant that's full and the servers are like stretched and full versus going when they're empty, right? So it's always like that saying too, is if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Okay, ladies, have a wonderful Friday.
too.
Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you
All right.
soon.
Girl power.
So,
Girl power.
take care.
Woo!
Bye.
Girl power.
Bye.